Okay, I'm going to start by going over a couple of patterns for you guys, and I'm going to get into a little bit about trading different time frames and knowing what time frame you're trading. So the couple patterns I'm going to go over this week are just a couple of stocks that we gave our members in our watch list at night. We do have several different traders here that provide all different kinds, so I'm going to kind of go over what I do now, and then maybe in a couple weeks we'll kind of do a video about what somebody else does. But just to start, I just want to go over bull flags and kind of what makes a good bull flag. So Infy is a chart that we had given our members on Thursday, and this was for a scalp day trade. You can swing trade them, you can do whatever you want. Just make sure that you have your stop plan in place. So on this Infy stock right here, you've got a bull flag, and the more things that you have that make the trade greater, that's going to give it volume, the better. So this stock actually happened to be flagging right here, and you can tell by the volume. So if you don't have the volume, you get your initial volume rip, and then you have this stair step down in volume. So on the bull flags, the best are the ones that stair step down. And then you've got another thing that made this an even better trigger, which was it was trading right near all-time highs, 27.29. You take the top of your bull flag at 27.60, and you've got an entry of 27.61. So within 2 days, this stock rips to 30.83, and you can see the volume explosion on the breakout day. So again, on the bull flag, you're looking for the flagpole on big volume. I call this, the ripstick higher, and then you've got deep stair step down in volume during the consolidation period, and then you've got your breakout to the upside. Now bull flags can happen on any chart, and they can take many different shapes. So I'm going to show you another one that we gave members this week, and they're not always going to be perfect, and that's one thing that we try to teach here. You're not always going to get those ideal picture perfect setups. This stock actually this is a CRM. It is trading in a consolidation mode right here, but the day that we gave it to our members was right here. You had, again, not a picture perfect triangle wedge forming, but you had your ripstick, you had consolidated volume. Now this is a triangle, this is more of a triangle wedge or a falling wedge pattern. Even though you breach below it, that's very common right now with the market, the volume so thin, these algos are going to test everything. So especially in a market like right now, you're not going to get the picture perfect play. But again, we noticed that you had this huge ripstick in volume. You didn't have any sporadic, just big moves higher. It didn't look like, let's say right here on my chart, if you look at the bottom of my screen, the volume, it wasn't real sporadic. But you had this nice consolidation after a big move higher. We had given it to our members with an entry at 160.51, the stock the same day, and actually within 20 minutes hit 165.89, and now it's even looks like it's digesting for a move higher. Now I hate trading these, especially in a market like we're in now where there's no momentum to the upside. I would hate to take, you have this initial move higher, you have this initial move higher. In a good market, this would consolidate, potentially go higher, but I would just not look at this at all right now. So this would be an example of a falling wedge that's not necessarily the best wedge. And again, right now we're just talking about on the daily. Now, one more that we gave our members this week, and again, this is just one of many patterns that we play, but was this BIOF. Now this trade didn't work out exactly how we wanted it, but we had an entry of 475, so we got in on the 10th. On the 11th, the stock hit 566. It was over a 25% move. We had initially had a target. We were looking for initially a run up to this gap fill level, which was like 664, but we noticed the volume got a little weak, started to die down. Even though we only got out with a 5% profit and we were up 25%, I mean, we were swinging for the fences, and we did mention to members, if we always mention, if you need the profit right here, if you're going to be disappointed if the stock pulls back, then you need to take some off the table or take it off the table. This stock, just the way that it can move, can get these big moves, and that's just kind of what we were hoping for, is maybe potentially some news, because a lot of times it is amazing how this news always happens to come out right at the apex point. So that's the point of the resolution bar. So the resolution bar, again, right here, happened to be December 10th, and that the apex point is where the bottom part of your wedge touches the falling, what makes it the falling wedge, your resistance line. Your support line and your resistance line comes together. That's the apex point. Again, what made this a great trade? Now you might say this doesn't have stair step down in volume. Well, this is a triangle wedge. on a day chart, or I'm sorry, a falling wedge on the day chart, these take a little longer to form. So the main thing is the base of the move, the big jolt, is where most of the volume took place, and then you had more consolidated volume as the pattern was digesting. So you had this big move, you had to digest it, and initially, again, a 25% pop is nothing to sneeze at. Again, we didn't get what we wanted, but we made money on the trade. We just noticed that it was weak, and in this market, if you notice things are changing, you can always have a plan. So your plan is going to be, you're going to enter here, you're going to exit here, and you're going to sell here. But as soon as something changes, you need to react to that. So as soon as something changes and says, well, that was initially my plan, but this, it looks like it could possibly be putting in a doji bar. Things are getting weak. People are starting to sell. It's not holding 5. Whatever that situation is, you need to react. So you're not always going to get, you might always initially want to risk 1 for 3 or risk 1 for 10 or whatever the risk scenario is. But if things start to change, take what you have. And that's what we did in this situation. One more stock let's take a look at is CIE. Now, we're going to talk about many different time frames. So on this one, we had given this to our members on a weekly basis. That's where the big wedge was forming, was really on the week. You can see it on the day also. But again, the higher time frame you go from the day to the week to the month, it's harder to really tell on your volume. But again, you've got the biggest volume bar coming in, and a lot of times on a falling wedge too, your biggest volume bar could be a red bar. And it digests, that's getting all the sellers out. As long as it holds the support level, you get the pop. On the daily, you can still see this as well. But we had given this to our members before the wedge breakout, looking for a big move on this. And again, a lot of times when these stocks break out of these wedges, you would be surprised. The news comes out. Look what happens. We actually got an 80-cent, just huge, massive pop the day that this broke out of the wedge. And I'll get into this. I'll get into the drawing the wedge more for premium subscribers, but you will understand why we did not include this wick and why we did not include this wick. It's a very technical, but just a basic part of the wedge. See, look at your volume. It's your biggest volume bar, again, on the day chart, going to be at the beginning of the wedge, and you have this huge consolidation pattern. Your support line is holding, and then you get a rip up, you get news. And again, it is not uncommon, even like a MCP getting news recently after it was coming out of a pattern. It's not uncommon for these stocks to get these huge rips and then get news. And it's almost ironic how that happens. So this is an example, of a weekly wedge or a daily wedge. Now let's go to something more intraday. And not all wedges are going to work. So you need to have conviction in what you're trading, and you need to know what you're trading. This was a beautiful wedge we had called. I didn't get exactly what I wanted out of this, but we gave it to members in the chat room. You get these huge rips on volume. So this stock had a big move, right? You had a huge rip. You look at your volume, and then you see what's happening. The stock is starting to wedge. So intraday trading. Let's talk about how you trade these intraday. The best way to trade these intraday.